So I know it has been a while since we chatted, and I will explain a little bit of that. And I know that you have seen at this point my fleet of vehicles, but you haven't seen another fleet. This one. So I wanted to share some of it with you. Let's take a look. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. So I wanted to take an opportunity and show you a collection that I have had for many years. I started collecting these very early in life, and I just wanted to take you through some of them and kind of share with you some of my favorites. But this is over 130 cars that I have collected since I was a child. Now, what prompted me to do this? I have a very simple answer for that, and that is I love cars. I've always loved cars ever since I was a kid, and so my parents bought me one of my first ever model cars in Oak Park, Michigan at a bookstore in, I believe it was 1992 or 93. And from that time on, I collected many of them. Now, if you're doing the math, around that time, I was probably around 5 years old. I did not know what a collection actually was. So yes, unfortunately, I played with them a lot. Playing with them equals breaking them because they are very intricate, and I had to learn that the hard way. As I got older, I started to realize the importance of what these cars were and how delicate and how beautiful they were in their craftsmanship. So I decided to start buying them to collect them. Now, up until we moved to Florida, they were basically sitting in totes. They had never been taken out and put out on display because I never really had a place to put them until now. So I'm gonna take you through a few of these cars and share with you some of my favorites that I have collected over the years, and some of those that have withstood the test of time that I played with as a child. Now, you will sort of get to see the transformation of this wall because there is going to be more that's going to be done as far as we're actually going to be covering up the paint in the back, and we're going to be hanging all of these license plates that I used to collect over the years from Michigan, and they'll be hanging up over the top. So you'll see those in due time as we do more videos. Now, you might wonder, how are these all organized? I basically put all of these together by the German brands in the first set here. So you got your Porsches going into Mercedes, and then you have Volkswagen and Audi up on the top. Now, I realize the placement of this one is a little bit off. This one is a British brand, obviously, with being Jaguar, which really belongs with these four up near the top. But we will see if we need to reorganize the shelf and put some of that together. This is one of my favorite cars here. It's the XJ220 in a 1:12 ratio scale, I believe. And it is an absolutely beautiful car with a lot of great detail done on it. Some of these cars, unfortunately, because they were in totes, did get a little bit damaged, but not enough for you to see unless you get up close to them. Underneath the Jaguars, we have our Italian cars. We have Ferrari and Lamborghinis. And then, as I mentioned before, you have the one Italian that's left, the Alfa Romeo, and then you have the English cars. Followed by the French, you have Bugatti, a Citroen, and an Alpine Renault. Followed by all of the American-made cars. You got your Fords right here. You do have Hummer, which was kind of GM, but not really. Followed by more GM vehicles, going all the way down to Cadillac. And then you got Chryslers, starting up at the top here, moving their way down. And then you have kind of just the random shelf. We have a Studebaker, and then 3 Japanese vehicles. Then we have a limousine, and then these are all the 1:24 scale cars that I have collected over the years. And these are mostly grouped by brand, except for this shelf right here. We have a couple of Porsches, a Shelby Cobra, a Ferrari, and then we have a Franklin Mint Rolls Royce, and then you have your Chevys down here on the bottom. Now, as I mentioned before, some of these vehicles I did play with as a child, so some of them have some battle scars on them. Some of them are in really nice condition. We're still in the box, and I actually took them out, removed them from their platforms, and put them directly on the shelf, so they literally had never been touched. Some of them for years. Now, I will say, as someone who has collected these cars over several decades, the newer that they are starting to get, the less functional they are as far as maybe opening hood hoods or doors or things like that, or even functional steering. And you'll see some of that as far as the differences between the way the cars used to be made and the way they are made today. But nonetheless, they are still very beautiful cars, even the newer ones that are being made today. Like as an example here, here's a 1990 Lamborghini Diablo. This was probably something I purchased like maybe in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. And not only does this have like functional Lambo doors, but it even has a latch that you pull on in order to actually open the door. So this door will not open unless you pull on the latch, and that is unique only to this car. There are no other cars on the shelf that have this capability. So another example, this was made by a company called Barago. There are a lot of different ways in which these cars were made with more detail in the early days of when these were made compared to today. Now, not to say that today's cars don't look beautiful as well. I mean, this is probably a more recently purchased LaFerrari, and it is in really good shape. It looks beautiful. The detail work on the engine is very nice. So there is still, even though maybe you don't see as much functionality being put into some of the stuff or some of the finer details, the car is still made really well. Inside, you got the Ferrari badge on the steering wheel. There's still a lot of detail on the dash itself. The doors are functional. The bonnet is functional. The front is also functional as well as steering and independent suspension for all of the wheels. So even today's cars, while maybe not as fine in terms of the detail, they still look beautiful. Now, another one that I want to give an example of a car that's made today, the steering is not functional. The wheels, they feel a little bit more like tougher, like maybe more of a toy. The hood still opens, the door opens, the trunk opens. So, I mean, it's still very functional, just like these other model cars, but the lack of steering and the lack of independent suspension definitely makes this car feel a little bit cheaper, even though when you look at it at the surface, it still looks like a really nice car. These are the kinds of details I'm still looking for whenever I am trying to purchase a model car, because I really do want to have the car look as authentic and as detailed as possible. Now, I wanted to share this one with you. This is probably one of the first cars I have ever owned as far as a model car. This was one of the cars that was purchased at that bookstore that I mentioned in Oak Park, Michigan. This is a 93 Ford F-150. It only has opening doors, and it has an opening trunk, but this truck has withstood the test of time. This truck has been used and abused and played with constantly. I've removed the bumper off the front of it. The bumper and the tailgate easily come off, but it just speaks to the quality of what they made. You could beat this car to death and it would still remain relatively solid. Just another one of the cool ones that I'd like to share that is kind of part of my childhood and kind of represents some of the cars that I own today that helped me want to collect more. Now, this one here is one of my favorites. It's a 1998 Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph. It's a beautiful car. It has an opening hood with a very detailed look at the engine. It looks beautiful. Inside of the car, it has all four doors, which is very rare for a model car. Usually the back doors do not open, only the fronts do. And inside of the car is actual real carpet. Which is a really, really nice touch. This was actually made by the Franklin Mint. Inside of the trunk, same thing, also has carpet in it. So it was just a beautiful car when I purchased it. Again, a car that does have some battle scars. It's unfortunately missing its mirrors, but something that I learned as I got older to try to keep these cars as clean as they possibly can be. Thankfully, there's no damage to the paint or anything like that, but I would have loved to still been able to say this car is fully functional, all the mirrors are still there, everything works great, but you learn your lessons. Even that beautiful Rolls-Royce emblem in the front, I mean, the craftsmanship of this car is just gorgeous. Now, that Rolls-Royce has to be near the top of the list as one of my favorites, but there are so many back here that I absolutely love. They all have very unique features to all of them, and they are absolutely beautiful cars, and I will continue to probably add to this collection, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna plan on doing that, even though all these shelves look full. So as you can see, some of them are in a diagonal motion because there are only 4 of them, and then some of them are kind of on top of each other because there are 5 of them. Like Mercedes, for instance, I have 10 cars that are from Mercedes. So starting with the classics, going into some of the convertibles, and then going into the SUV, and even a unique one that I believe is only available overseas from what I know. But what the plan is, we will also have a shelf that's going to go in between here that will have legs so that we can spread these out a little bit more and be able to showcase them a little bit more. And then as you can see, like on this shelf right here, we only have 3 Porsches. So we will add on to that as we buy more from those brands. What I will likely be purchasing the least of are these 1/24 scale models. These are not necessarily my favorites because they are a little bit smaller. They fit more in the palm of my hand, where these other cars actually do have a little bit of size and detail to them. So I actually do enjoy owning these cars a little bit more than the smaller ones. So we probably will continue to add to the 1/18 scale collection as opposed to these smaller 1/24. Now, it took me a very long time to be able to finally decide to pull all of these out of my totes and put them out on the shelf for you all to see. If you really like this content, give it a big thumbs up, and please consider subscribing if you are enjoying watching the videos that we put out and following our business. And we are going to continue giving you more content from the business starting next week. So keep an eye out for that, and we appreciate you so much for supporting us and supporting the channel. Thank you so much for watching. And if you do need a car in Jacksonville, you won't be able to get any of these, but go to ACHURENTALS.com and you will see our entire fleet. We have everything from small compact cars to giant minivans, and we may be adding more coming soon. Have a great day, everybody.